Quit living in fear. I recently read a Gallup poll. Matter of fact, just a couple nights ago, and I cut and pasted this. A Gallup poll answered the question. Here's the question. You with me? Say amen. All right, put your gospel seatbelt on, baby. I'm going to go from being that silly, goofy guy. We're going to get right into dealing with fear, how we're going to get over that, biblically deal with that fear in our life, and we're going to hit the ground running in the next 20, 30 minutes, 40 minutes, maybe an hour, okay? Whatever the Lord wants to do. We're going to hit the ground running. Gallup poll, see, in order, they asked this question, what scares America the most? Heath, what do you think was number one? Death? Snakes, bro. Number one on the list. Snakes. Snakes. I thought, man, they don't know the boys I run with. They like this with them. We'll jump rope. No. Snakes, number one. In order, snakes, number one. Listen, crazy, right? Stay with me. Watch this. Snakes. Number two, public speaking. Imagine that. All right. How many are afraid of public? Let me go back. How many are afraid of snakes? Show hand. Show hand. Show hand. Show hand. Show hand. Call Heath Patterson. All right. And most of them do, don't they? They message you for sure. All right. How about public speaking? How many of you are terrified of public speaking? Anybody ever had to do that, or when you went to college, you had to take a public speaking, or your job, or anything like that? He is. It is terrifying. Still to this day, I'll take a knee right over there, or however God tells me to pray. I'm not so much in fear of what I get to do now. Is I'm super intimidated, and my social anxiety is at full height. So it is a very difficult thing. Been doing it long enough now where it's just get in there, catch your breath, say something stupid, and then go with it, all right? Number 4 on the list, in order again, I want you to just Gallup polls, not original with me. It was just something, it's an article I read. What scares America the most? Snakes, public speaking. Number 3 is heights. You see, in the top 3, just hanging out with Heath Patterson, I've overcome several of this, okay? All right? Public speaking was on the Lord, okay? The snakes and the heights, you can kind of get over real quick when you run with him, all right? How many scared of heights? Scared of heights? Yeah. Very, very terrifying. I dreamed, somebody had to dream, you'd have a nightmare, I guess you call it a nightmare, where you're way up above everything, and all of a sudden, you go down and you wake up, They say if you ever hit, you have a heart attack. I don't know, anyway. Sometimes it happens. Number 4, you got to listen quick with me, ADD. Number 4, being closed in a small space. Claustrophobia, anybody have that fear? Elevators, man, I'm telling you, true story, old part of the hospital at Oconee. Backside service elevator. I was in a hurry to visit some folks one day, get on that elevator, have no idea, it's never happened before, it's never happened since. Hit the floor I was going to, it stopped. No reception. I'm telling you, and I'm being honest with you, within about, I want to say 15 seconds, I am freaking out. Telegraph prayer, Lord Jesus. All of a sudden, so in a small space, number 5, spiders, man. Anybody scared of spiders? Wow, spiders. This one's huge right here. This one's huge. Needles and getting a shot. You kind of get the gist of what we're doing. Raise your hand if you're scared of them, all right? Some of you're like, I ain't scared of nothing. I'm going to get you before the service is over, okay? I'm terrified of, not necessarily the needles and getting shot, just the whole doctor, the whole thing there. But anyway, 7, mice. Anybody scared of mice? Well, if you're not scared of snakes, not scared of mice because you've been feeding them the mice. All right. Flying on an airplane, Amanda. Got over that. Terrified. How many of you are scared of flying? How many of you in past tense, but you've had to fly or had an opportunity to go somewhere and you had to fly? How many of you have gotten over that, but before you got on that plane, you were terrified of flying? All the scenarios in your brain. Okay, all right, I've been there. Number 9, I don't know how this made the list other than when I was small, I was blind for a while because I got bit in the face. But number 9 on the list in America is dogs. I mean, dogs, I should have said dogs before I told you I got bit in the face. We did fight a lot. I kind of got that backwards. With a little Yoda on you. But no, dogs, because I love dogs, right? Jew bug, man, I can't see her doing anything but licking you to death. But dogs made the list. And again, when I was small, so I could see that. Number 10, thunder and lightning. You scared of thunder and lightning? Some of you are adults now and you just don't want to admit these things. Maybe this was something when you were small, okay, or younger, but thunder and lightning. Number 11, I got 2 more. 11, going to the doctor. And let me just add there, Nicole and others that are in this industry, going to the dentist. I think it sucks, okay? But I think you have to do it, all right? Going to the doctor. How about the dark? Sarah, y'all, hey, listen, it's all right. Like I said, some of you are like, I ain't scared of nothing. You know what I'm saying? All right? I'll find your kryptonite for us over with. The dark. All these things, there's 12 of them on this list. Again, it's just an article I read. I wanted to be silly with it, but I wanted to say this about it, and I typed it out so I wouldn't forget. These things, in many of these fears, they're not even rational. Do you realize that? They're not even, some of you going, now those are huge things. Spiders, snakes, you bring one out, I'm gone. You know what I'm saying? For me, it's sharks. That's why when I go to the beach or the shore, I only go in where there's a bunch of people. All right, because I only got to outrun one of you. Pow, I'm out, I'm just saying, okay? I thought y'all know that by now. That's how I roll. And so, but most of these things are not even rational. Can you think back with me for just a moment? Because some of you don't want to admit some of the things that you're afraid of. We're going to get real serious in a moment. But do you think about when you were a kid? My brother, my younger brother, and myself, we shared a room. Anybody remember the show Different Strokes? Remember the show? It's really a little bit before me, but I remember Different Strokes. You remember the bunk beds the brothers had? I always wanted that one, and I can remember it. One bunk bed went across, and the bottom for the big brother, it was a regular bed, come out this way and stuff like that, and a little dresser in there. We had that, so we're always kind of together until we got older and couldn't stand each other and tried to fight all the time. And so we went to two separate rooms, but we were always sharing a room, all right? And my girls are the same way. We brought bunk beds in Lana's room, and so, man, they always are sleeping in there and play in Addison's room. I don't think hardly ever do they sleep in there, but you think about it when you were small, and maybe you didn't have a sibling, but one of the things I remember for kid is that if the closet door, you listening to me? If the closet door was left cracked open, I was terrified. Now remember, I've shared this with one Mother's in Heaven, but Mother, don't think bad of her, okay, but she loved horror movies. And I'm not talking about just any horror movies. She was like anything that was scary. I'm talking like B-rated gore, just awful horror movies. I mean, it was just awful. VHS back in the day. The Curtis Mathes, you had to pop it in there. And so all these things I was afraid of. But now watch this. If they would close the closet door, I wasn't afraid. I mean, so obviously with the closet door, no lock on it, but just shut it, I'm safe. Okay? Another one for me was this, and again, maybe you didn't have these things that made you fearful, but they did me. They were, serious. Sometimes I struggle with it now psychologically. But when I was young, I would get on that bed, brother would be up there, everything would be good, but mine was the one on the floor. And I had this you see how fear can be so irrational. As long as my arm didn't hang off the bed, I was safe. The man under the bed couldn't get me. Now check it. Now, I don't know if some of you probably didn't do this, but I did this. I would run to get in the bed. I would jump over because he might grab me. You understand? I mean, you feeling me, right? I mean, I don't know. I hope it's not just me, but if my foot just kind of eased, I'm like, ah! I mean, you get me. So irrational. My mom would always, and I think I shared this last week. I've shared it before. I know it. I was the older brother. My baby brother was the baby brother. And so I always had to take out the scraps. We didn't have a garbage disposal. We lived in a single wide, and it is what it is. And so I didn't even know they existed back then, of course. And so after dinner, if something was left over, I had to carry the scraps to the edge of the woods, kind of into the property. Now, I want you to understand something about this. I can never, in this messed up mind of mine, remember us getting done with dinner and it still be daylight. And I want you to understand something too, that like from here where I'm standing to that speaker, maybe a little bit further was how far I had to go, but I'm talking about pitch black, man. I mean, just dark. And I would run so fast. I mean, just like the Bonnie. I mean, I would throw those scraps. And I would get in so much trouble because most of the time the scraps were strung across the yard because I wouldn't even get to the edge of the property. You know what I'm saying? I just boom, because all I could hear, you with me? All I could hear was so terrified. And how irrational. Most of the things in our life are that way. As a matter of fact, like the things under the bed or in the closet, if the door was shut or the light, like the guy can't get you with the light on. You know what I'm saying? It's crazy. Most of those things, man, they're just so irrational. They don't even make sense to be afraid of them. Now, four of the most common areas, let's get serious for a moment. Four of the most serious I can get are the most common categories of fear are these. Now, watch this. Fear of loss, loved ones, money. This one's huge. We were just talking about it this morning. Pastor Bradley and I was talking about it down here at the stage. we fear the loss of control. Anybody, it just terrifies you for things to get out of control. Especially if if you're a parent, your kids, or if you've got a whole big crew and you're like, man, you've got a structure, order, this is how we do things, and if one goes rogue on you, it's like, what? I mean, it's just crazy, man. And then if you get real serious, you're afraid that let's be serious for a moment. Nobody wants to get the call that there's something wrong with their child. I don't ever, I have prayed since Addison was conceived that God would take me before he'd take my child. And then I got a little smarter. I was like, God, I pray for her purity. I pray for her salvation and all those things. But I'm telling you, the immediate thought was, God, please don't take her before you take me. And I've walked with families that have had to go down that road. I mean, these are real serious things that we fear. They're phobias, man. We're afraid. We don't always admit them, but if we're not careful, our lives will be so impacted by this fear of loss. And watch this. Not only the loss of a loved one or money or control, man, it's just so. If you've been down there, you're afraid it's going to happen again. Fear of loss, fear of failure is the second major category. You can put all kind of little subs in these major categories. Fear of loss, fear of failure. I don't know anybody in my life that wakes up in the morning and says, I want to be a failure today. And if we're not careful, it will absolutely cripple us. The fear of failure. Nobody wants to be, especially us men. We do not want to be failure. We live in a world that is absolutely success-driven. We don't want to be a failure. Now, you take somebody like me that has failed marriage, and you can say whatever you want to say on both ends. Failed church, somewhere around 12 staff, a few hundred people there on average. Learning center, man, everything nice, office, nice salary, all these things, nice house, nice SUV, all these things, and then for some of you it is relationships, for some of you it's jobs, some of you it's career, education, it's all these things, and fear of failure. Not only loss and failure, third major category is fear of rejection. Nobody wants to be rejected. Nobody wants to be rejected. This is what it leads to. You want everybody to accept you, so you're willing to do anything and everybody to be accepted. And yes, I said that correctly. You don't want to be rejected. Nobody wants to be rejected. And here's the thing, is that sometimes we cannot help. We do not choose the families that we are born into. Yes or no? You cannot choose that. You can choose your friends, but you can't choose your family. And sometimes, for whatever reason, God allows you and others to be born in families that are just absolutely, they put the fun in dysfunctional, man. Wacko, nuts, some of them sorry. And because you have felt the lack of acceptance from a male figure in your life, if you are a female, or from a love of your mother for us guys, it has led you to doing all kind of dark things because you still fear being rejected. I know people right now, you listening to me, please say amen. I know people right now, they literally cannot fathom the idea of living by themselves. They are so codependent on somebody else that they're willing to compromise who they are and what they know because of that fear. That's how serious these are. I mean, silly with the other ones, all right? Well, maybe I'm a little bit scared of spiders too, but I'm just saying, all right? 4 major categories: loss, failure, rejection. 4th, fear of the unknown. Fear of the unknown. This is where I want to begin to preach. Fear of the unknown. Scariest thing in this world, are you listening to me? Scariest thing in this world is not being in control. It's the what ifs. I believe the world's worst at this. I don't know. With my daughters, I often, they can go, and listen, there are very few places that they spend the night. I mean, it's just the way it is. That's just the way it is. I'm not too overprotected, but so they can go, and I will know where they're going, and I trust where they're going, because most of them, we do life together, and I love them, and they love the Lord, and they know I give one of them, and they do me the same. But they can leave me, and I can begin to think, well, what if this? What if she don't do this? What if this happens? One of the greatest fears of all is the fear of the what ifs, the unknown. Well, if I try this, I may fail. If I do this, what if? And it's been going on since the very beginning. I mean, it's been going on from the very, very beginning of time. The what ifs, and it's crippling, because this is what fear does for us. You're still taking notes, and I'm going to get there in a moment, but just stay with me. Fear does this. This is what these things do to us, all right? Fear overwhelms us. Anybody ever suffer from panic attacks? You willing to admit that? Man, I'm telling you, there was a season in my life I would have been like, what? Now, please don't be offended by me. I'm telling you, this is how ignorant I was. I would have been, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. About 6, 7 years ago, I began to pastor some folks that I had never heard anything like that. I mean, literally, I know a gentleman, he literally had to call the rescue squad. He pulled off on the side of the road because he's having a panic attack. Fear will overwhelm you. Was he afraid of the truck, the car, the what? I don't know. It's a very real, and it's fear. It's fear. The root of it is fear. There's something that causes you to get shortness of breath, feel like you're having a heart attack. These things begin to happen to you. It'll overwhelm you. Secondly, it will consume you. It will not only overwhelm you, it'll consume you. Before you know it, all you can do is live in fear. I'm afraid. I'm afraid to try this. I'm afraid to go there. I'm afraid to do this. I'm afraid to open myself up. I'm afraid to say, hey. I was student pastoring, and I got a call from a deacon. And I had been student pastor where he was a deacon. I'd gone off to become the lead pastor in another church. He calls me up and said, I want you to pray for so-and-so, one of his daughters. I said, absolutely. He said, Joel, he said, she has locked, she's off at college, all right, in-state college, but she's off at college. She has locked herself in her house, and she will not come out. She's terrified. I mean, I knew the kid. The most lively, sometimes disruptive, motor mouth. And what had happened is she'd let fear overwhelm her, consume her, and then ultimately third, this is the effect of fear. It paralyzes you. You just lock down. Now, some of you are walking zombies, all right? Don't forget, new show comes on tonight. You're walking zombies. You're just walking dead people. You look good, you smile, you say, hey. You might even just nod at them. You might come to church, but really inside you're paralyzed. You're so afraid right now that if we crack the surface open, we would see the real you. You're so afraid of that. You're so afraid. That's why you put all the lovely pictures you put on social media. Nobody puts the ugly stuff. Well, some do. I can't stand feet. Nobody wants to see your feet. And if you do put a picture of your foot up, please make sure that it is well taken care of. Okay, come back to the message. Y'all think I'm kidding. I ain't kidding. No, you're just so afraid. So afraid. Man, here recently, phobias. I mean, there's literally a phobia of phobia. Do you know that? Google it. I mean, crazy. Here recently, I've known people that were, scared of the water. Here recently, man, when we had baptism and we just took a bucket, and I don't care what anybody says. Baptism is an act of obedience, and it says be immersed, be covered in the water. We covered you in water, man. All right, just go in and shoot it up your nose or something, You know what I'm saying? I had a guy come in the baptism tank. He walked down in the tank. He's probably in his 60s. This is at a different church. I've told this story numerous times. When Daryl got into water, this guy's name was Daryl. When he got into water, he was like this. I didn't even think he was breathing. So I did what I do. As a car ran, I said, I baptize you in the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. Whoosh, back up. Just swept his legs. He went down just like that. And I brought him right back up. Phobias, man, they'll paralyze you. And here's a spiritual application. This is what I want you to get before you leave here today. I want you to quit living in fear. I'm talking about the fear that nobody else knows that you have. All right? I'm serious. You know the fat person you still see in the mirror? Or the dunce that the teacher called you still see in the mirror? The rejection that you still see in the mirror? because of what mom said or dad said or didn't say, or that one relationship or that two relationship or that third relationship or that third marriage. I want you to get to a place today where you say, I absolutely quit living in fear. Or where the church hurts you or where they let you down. I've seen it at its best and I've seen it at its worst. I've been at my best and I've been at my worst. So I'm as guilty as the church because I am the church. The ecclesia, called out ones. I want you to leave here today and say, I'm not going to be paralyzed, because what you do when you live in fear, even if you don't let anyone know, you know on the inside that fear, because it's now you're cutting yourself, now you're bulimic, now you're all these things, now you're experimenting with alcohol. Nobody knows, but in the drugs, all these things, these are all manifestations of fear. Because it has paralyzed you, and I want you to get to a place where you say, I am going to quit living in fear, because it keeps you from the abundance that God has for you. You see, Satan's okay with where you are. It is where you're headed he wants to keep you from. And so he will cause anything he can, even if it is the most irrational thing to be afraid of. And I'm not making fun of your phobias at all. I'm not here to criticize you or judge you. You would laugh at some of the things. I still get scared sometimes when I'm by myself. I will not, literally, I'm telling you, last night, girls went somewhere. Sandra was somewhere. I started watching something that was scary. I turned it. Thought I heard something. I don't care what you think about me. I got a little bit scared. That ain't no lie. But in the spiritual realm, God wants so much more for you. And you let that fear paralyze you. It prevents you from reaching the full potential that God has for you, or the greatness that he has prepared for you. Someone has said, and I disagree with this. You with me? Say amen. Amen. Someone has said, and I quote, I'm not going to tell you who, but I've heard other preachers say it. Fear is the absence of faith. I disagree with that. And you can disagree with me, and that's okay. You have the right to be wrong. I disagree with it. Stay with me, and I'll prove to you why I disagree with that statement. Fear is the absence of faith. I don't believe that. I really believe fear, this is good for you to take notes. Fear is really misplaced faith. Fear is really misplaced faith. You see, you put more faith in the what ifs than you do what God said he'd do, even if you can't see him. You all right? Did I speak too fast? Fear is really misplaced faith. You put more faith in the what is than you do what God is saying for you to do. Moses did it. God comes to him and says, hey, this is what I want you to do. What did he do? NIV uses words. He says, well, suppose, right away, what if? What if they don't believe me? What if I'm not the guy? What if this speech impediment? What if? And we put more faith in the what ifs. And see, and you say, well, why is that so important for us to get this morning? Because it reveals some things. First of all, when you do this, it reveals what you value most. You see, when you misplace your faith and you let fear override it, and you start saying, what if, all it does is it really reveals what you value most. Like, for instance, and these are not bad things. You're still with me, right? These are not bad things. You say, okay, what if I lose my marriage? Well, what if something happens to my children? That's not bad, right? I want my marriage to be a success. I want my children to be safe. That's not wrong, but do you understand the concept of what it's teaching here? That you're putting more faith in the what if when all you do is put what if instead of saying, God, she's yours. They're not your children anyway. They're God's. Who do you think, when's the last time you took some dirt and went and made somebody? When's the last time you created the molecules that you're breathing in now? Do you understand what I'm trying to say to you? He created the trees to put out what we need. That's why we only cut down selective ones. You see, it's not that fear is the absence of faith. It's misplaced faith. It's saying, I put more faith in those things, even though you don't say it that way. You're saying, I believe this, and I believe this, and I believe this is not going to happen. And you say, what? I'm going to lose this. And what it does, it reveals what you value most. I'm going to lose all my money. Lose my home. Lose my car. We're learning now. People walk 10 miles, man. You can walk where you got to get. Yeah, you don't like that, do you? Do you understand? This is why the what ifs are so important. So when it's a big deal, because it reveals what you value most. Now watch the flip side of that. Not only does your what ifs, those fears, reveal what you value most, but it reveals, this one kicked my gluteus maximus. It reveals where you trust God the least. Not only does it reveal your fears, your what ifs, the misplaced faith in your life, it reveals what you value most, but it reveals where you trust God the least. My marriage, give it to God. Your children, give them to God. And as mine approach puberty, I give them more daily to God. Just wait, I'm told. Even the dog's a girl. Have I told y'all that? My money, your future. Can I be honest with you? I think we're pretty much past that pretense, and you know you get what you see with me, right? Even if it's, you get what you see. I mean, it's just what it is what it is, baby. You know where I struggle the most. I'm being this has literally been a tough week for me to get. I thought the excuse and the complaining. I really feel like God was reminding me that I do not trust him with you. God was reminding me that I don't trust him with Sandra. This is crazy, right? You know I'm nuts, man. The girls left last night. Sandra took them to meet the family, the Hilgers and all the crew of girls. God bless them. They had a crew of girls stayed up their house, birthday celebration. And I told Sandra this, I'm being as real as I can be. I was a little bit short with Addie before she left. Her suitcase, it hit the floor, and I was already feeling aggravated, just real tense. I know none of you have this problem, and I just real heightened, just aggravation this week, just on the edge about every little thing. Again, I know you guys are perfect, don't have any trouble with that, but it slapped the floor, and I said, pick the bag up now. I had enough, and what I didn't tell you is all the other stuff that I'd had to get on to them leading up to it. And Lana, y'all all right now? Again, you guys are so much better parents than me, but Lana sometimes, no, most of the time, no, all the time, she never stops talking. So let's be real with it. It just was getting on my nerves. Just get on my nerves. I don't tell her that. Just get on my nerves. Hit the thing and slam. Lana was like, did I tell you? Or she come over to say something, and I was like, trying to watch Sports Center. The dog jumps up, back off, chick. TV. They left. Listen to me, where I trust God the least. They left, and I cried my eyes. I know it sounds so sissy-fied, and I was scared of the dark. Y'all never. These guys are never gonna follow me. I ain't gonna lie to you, man. My hormone levels are good. Testosterone level is great. I'm good. I was so overcome with being such a slack husband and dad. Again, I don't need you to inbox me later or write on my wall, you're great, Pastor, we love you. This is not one of those moments where I'm just being honest with you. I thought, man, I'll never see him again. Well, God, when I'm going to screw these kids up. And well, and God is like, pow. Just trust me. Just trust me. I put them in your life. You understand what I'm saying? I'm going back to what I said. They're not my kids. It's not my wife. God give them. And God give me to you. It's just the way it is. Your what ifs reveal what you value the most and where you trust God the least. God, the attendance, the small groups, the outreach, the student ministry, the children's ministry, the women's ministry, the men's ministry, the lack of a senior ministry. the lack of this ministry, the lack of these funds, the money's kind of this and this, all these things. And God's like, why are you so afraid? What are you so scared of? Don't you know I give and I take? I bring the former and the latter rain. I'm no respecter of an individual's color or education or finances or which side of the tracks they live on. Why are you not trusting me? Fear not. I'm going to quit living in fear. Rise to the occasion. And this is, let's just be real. And I've been real before you, and I don't care what you think about me. I really don't. I love you in Jesus, but I do not care what you think about me. I care more about what he knows about me. But when you get honest, don't say it out loud, but I want you to fill in the blank. I'm not trusting God with. I'm not trusting God with whatever that is in that blank. I mean, just real. It's not for you to say. You don't need a priest or a pope, all right? You don't need this pastor. You just need Jesus. Okay, that's simple. And so just before him, in your conscience, in your spirit, where is it and what is it that you're not trusting him, or are you putting more value over anything else? And trust me, you listening, say amen. Amen. You may think no one else knows, but I guarantee you, especially those in the marriage and in the home, they know already what you answered even though you didn't say it out loud. Because you make their life a living hell about it. Was that too real? And ultimately, it's you think that you're boasting it up and making it a big deal, and really all you're doing is covering it up, big dog, that you're really scared. And so in these next few moments as I preach, because I hadn't even got to the message yet, you all right? How do we confront that fear? That what if? How do we biblically confront that, being that it's not that it's a lack of faith? Because I believe you got faith. I believe the guy, don't you believe the Bible? I believe the guy in the Bible that he said, God, I believe, but help my unbelief. It wasn't that he didn't have faith, that he didn't have enough faith. He had misplaced faith. I'm not going to quit living in fear. I'm going to rise to the abundant life. I want greatness for me and for my family. And not this name it, claim it stuff. Not this babble and grab. I'm talking about this fulfillment of peace and of joy. Even if everything around me is crumbling apart, I know my God is in control. That's what I'm talking about this morning. If you put the verse on the screen, I'm going to remind you of what Paul wrote in the scripture. If you will have your Bible, don't worry about getting to stay with me. 2 Timothy 1:7, for the Spirit God gave us. Isn't it good stuff? For the Spirit God gave us does not make us timid or fearful, cowardice, bunch of chickens, weak back, mealy-mouthed, tuck tail and run. But gives us, I love this, but gives us, it's not there, so I'm going to keep reading it to you, but gives us power, love, and a sound mind or a disciplined spirit. Do you understand that? So here's where the rubber hits the road. Here's the application. How do we confront that crippling, paralyzing, consuming, overwhelming fear? We do it through the Spirit. Because fear is the Spirit. God didn't give us a spirit of fear. You get that? But he gave us the one of power, of love, and of self-discipline, of control. Write these down, the two major thoughts this morning. Here's the message. You still with me? Say amen. Amen. This is how we get rid of the fear in our life. This is how we quit living in fear. The first one is this, and these are elementary, but it was worth shaving your legs this morning over. Acknowledge your fear and choose to trust God. Acknowledge your fear and choose to trust God. This takes being open and honest. It's painful at times. You see, it's not the absence of fear. It is that you are trusting in a greater God in spite of the fear. Most of us don't want to get on. Did you know anybody that has ever been where I have been knows that the first step to getting help in any situation or with any addiction is to do what? Acknowledge that you've got a problem. And we live in a society where it is weakness for us to admit that we're afraid. Especially in front of our wives and our children. Wives, I'm talking about all you men that have wives, not that you have multiple wives. Wrong denomination. So make sure you're listening. Wake up. It is to acknowledge that I'm afraid. I am afraid that I will be a failure as a husband. I'm afraid that I will be a failure as a dad. I'm afraid that I will be a failure as a pastor, as a leader, as an under shepherd. And that is the greatest weight of all eternity. Because I don't just deal with 9 to 5, man. I deal with eternity. Souls. And I must acknowledge that I am afraid. And trust God. I tell people all the time, they'll ask me about being a parent. I have no idea. Every day I wake up, it's a new adventure for me, and I make it up as I go along. I rely heavily on the Spirit of God and what the Word says. But most of the time, I'm making it up as I go along. Fear. I will not be paralyzed by that fear. I will acknowledge that I am afraid. Second thing. It's only 2. Second thing. Somebody say, amen. Second thing. Seek God. This is good. Seek God until He takes the fear away. Seek God until He takes. You said it's not the absence of fear. Seek God until He takes your fear away. The people God uses are not fearless people. They are faithful people. And it's not misplaced. Remember, fear, I believe with all my heart, is misplaced faith. It's not that you don't believe. It's that you put your faith in other things instead of trusting a bigger God than those things that make us afraid. It is absolutely an abandonment of who you are. It is an abandonment of what society has taught us. It is saying, God, I will trust you. I won't trust the banks. I won't trust my back. I will trust you, God. Because I'm telling you, the bank won't always be there. And some of you have learned firsthand, your back won't always be there, man. But God is faithful. And He's steadfast. He is our shield. He is our buckler. He is our armor. He is the right hand that will lift us. He is our Jehovah Jireh. He is the great provider of all things. And I'm telling you, it is not the absence of the fear. It is seeking Him in spite of the fear. People have been doing it since the very beginning. Look at some of these. Abraham. God says, leave and start a nation. I'm paraphrasing, but that's exactly what He said. Leave what you're familiar with and go start a nation. And he laughed. So does his wife, Sarai. They laughed. Why? Because they were old. Some of you saying, I'm too old. I'm too old. I love this morning, Joan was talking about the 10 miles that she walked yesterday. And she said it never occurred to her, Crystal, before you set out on a 10-mile journey that she could do 10 miles. And in my heart, I'm going, man, she has no idea what I'm preaching this morning, but that is exactly what I'm talking about. You just took one step at a time. And what did you discover? That you could do it. Maybe tired and sore this morning. Do you understand what I'm talking to you about this? Abraham, he says, leave, go. I didn't give you a spirit of fear. I give you one of power and of love and of discipline. Trust me in spite of the fear of you being too old and not knowing what's over there. And look at all the people that's been created. Look at the nation. He said that to Abraham, Moses. I've already referenced him. Moses, I want you to lead my people out. Let my people go. Moses, they won't believe me. God said, I want you to seek me. I want you to acknowledge. And he did. He acknowledged, I don't know, and I don't think I can. But God, I'm going to seek you, and I'm going to trust you. And he walked out, and he led the people out. And then this side of Israel, they crossed the Red Sea, and all those things that God did. Think about this. David. Too young, too short, too pretty. Didn't have the armor, wasn't a pick at all. But he slays the giant. What about Peter? Just a dumb sailor, right? Uneducated, cussing sailor. Probably a brawler. Would you agree with me? I mean, he was always quick to draw his sword. Here he is. I can't do this. God said, I want you to trust me. And he comes to him. You remember the story? He's walking on water. Are you with me? I'm telling him, I'm fixing to wrap it up, so stay with me very, very, very carefully. I want you to listen. He comes to him. He sends the disciples out in the water. You with me, right? He comes walking to them. And Peter says, they're scared, right? Fear. And he tells them to fear not, for it is me. Because he said, who is it you? And he's like, yes. He said, well, I want to come out on the water. Listen, he got out on the water. And what I couldn't help but think is this is what fear is doing to most of us. It is absolutely causing us to stand still and live in fear when we should be rising above and walking on. You see, the very things that cause most people, are you listening? The very thing that causes most people to sink in fear in God's trust and acknowledging that you're afraid, but still seeking Him. He will cause you to walk above things that others will sink in. That's God. You can either stand still or you can move forward with God. It's your choice. It's your choice. Now, this is the thing. Let me ask you another question, because I asked you to fill in the blank a minute ago. Let me ask you this question in closing. What is the one thing, you with me? Say amen. Amen. What is the one thing you would do if you had absolutely zero fear? Don't say it out loud, all right? Because it might scare somebody. What's the one thing that you would do if you had zero fear? I mean, there wasn't an ounce of fear in you. You say, well, how do I get to that place? There's only one question you have to ask. You listening? Peter exemplified it in the face of fear. There's only one question you have to ask. You don't have to know all the strategy and all the statistics and all this. There's only one question you have to ask. If God's leading you to do something, if you could do one thing, there's only one question you have to ask. You ready? Lord, is it you? That's what Peter asked. He didn't say, how deep's the water? How's it feel out there, man? Doesn't look too good. He just simply said, Lord, is it you? Most of you know, for a while now, time to time, help Heath. And I literally joking about the heights and stuff. I have gotten over because a lot of times I have to get on a roof or do something like this. I don't climb the trees like Heath, and I'm not kind of crazy like him. We just had this conversation literally just the other day. I don't even know if he picked up on this conversation. He was telling me, I've watched him, and this is not a brag on Heath. This is a point I'm trying to make about in the face of it. I've watched him climb some sketch trees. They look plumb rotten completely. I've watched him, and yes, I'm guilty. I'm right there with him. I don't know. I guess it's just a prayer warrior thing he's got me there for. I don't know. Special anointing. I've watched him stretch a ladder off the top of a roof across to a limb that's way out there, way above the ground. It probably tells you after the fact, Anitra, but anyway, way out there. I've watched him, but we were talking the other day, and the tree was sketch, man. He gets up, he gets pretty high, stuff like that. And he said something to me the other day, and I'm telling you, this is exactly what God is trying to get us to get to. It's not that he's not afraid. See, most people say, well, he's bad. He's afraid of anything. No. I don't know him as good as his wife and his children, but I know him pretty good, and I listen to him. No, it's quite the opposite of that. It's that when he's up there, even before he gets up there, when he's up there, pauses a moment, he breathes that fear in, exhales faith, because he said this other day, he said, well, whether I ride that tree down or I climb back down and we get the job done well, he said, I know God has brought me to this place. You see, the only question you have to ask in the face of some of the greatest fears is, Lord, is it you? Lord, is it you? Do you want me to take this job? Do you want me to marry this guy? Do you want me to go here? Do you want me to go there? Do you want me to do this? Lord, is it you? That is the only question you have to ask. Acknowledge your fear. Acknowledge your fear. But then seek God with everything you have. It is not fearless people he uses. It is faithful people he uses. It is a tenacity that I will trust him. And I'm telling you, you can either be a boat rider or a water walker. I choose to get out on a limb where the fruit is. In order to do that, I have to acknowledge I'm afraid. And I have to abandon myself and seek him. I pray today that when you leave, that whatever that fear is that is paralyzing you, that maybe nobody else knows about, I pray you absolutely give it to God and quit living in fear.